The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K is an entry-level cinema camera by Australian tech company Blackmagic Design. When it was announced in 2019, it was one of the most disruptive video production products of the year, offering 6K raw video in 50 FPS with 13 stops of usable dynamic range, all for under 3,000 euros. To put that into perspective, back then, if you wanted 6K video, you were looking at something like the Mavo 6K by then newcomer Kinefinity, which was 10,000 euros. And if you wanted something for a more established brand, you were looking at the Red Dragon 6K for more than double that. That meant, with the Pocket 6K, high-resolution filmmaking was now more accessible than ever. The release caught many by surprise, as a lot of people were looking at Panasonic's S1H, which was scheduled to release later that year. And Panasonic has been teasing 6K video for months at this point. But then, Blackmagic dropped the Pocket 6K out of nowhere, and it instantly became the new go-to option for budget-conscious filmmakers looking for a cinematic image. But that was 6 years ago. How does it hold up today? First of all, the Pocket 6K's image quality is still one of the best that a small wallet can buy. And even a big wallet, to be fair. Because when it came out, it was punching well above its weight class, coming extremely close to the image quality of Red and even Ari. And even today it holds its own, beating out much of the Sony Cinema line in my opinion, bar maybe the Venices. Rolling shutter isn't great though, it's about a 20 millisecond sensor readout, but I have yet to encounter any problems with Jello in my footage. It's not unusable, at least in the productions that I normally do. If you're a sports guy, this is maybe not the camera for you. But because image quality isn't everything, we unfortunately need to talk about ergonomics, which, as we all know, aren't great on the Pocket 6K to say the least. First of all, since the body is made of plastic without any rigging points, you need to buy a cage. And since I wanted a V-mount solution, I needed one with 15mm rod support, which adds a lot of weight. And you absolutely need an external battery, since the native Canon LPE6 are sucked dry in less than an hour of shooting. So get ready to either rig a V-mount to the back, or to opt for something like the battery grip from Tilta, which utilizes Sony NPF. If you go the V-mount route, which I mostly do during big shoots, the battery plate blocks the back screen. So now you need a screen on top of the camera. And as you can see, it gets crowded very, very easily. And heavy. So now you also need a tripod that can handle the weight of this Frankenstein rig. And by the time you fully build it out, the original starting price of 2,500 euros starts to feel more and more like a teaser. Realistically, you're looking at a much higher investment once you factor in power solutions, cage, monitor, media, and tripod. But to be fair, it is still a cinema camera, and most cinema cameras aren't ready to shoot out of the box. At least theoretically, you can use a Pocket only with a lens, a battery, and an SD card. Theoretically. Speaking of SD cards, don't use them, please. Most people use external SSDs as their media solution, and it is the most cost-effective way to record files on your Pocket. When I started out with my Pocket 6K, I also had a Samsung T5. There was even a rigging point on my Tilta cage to neatly fasten it down. But one day, the camera had problems recognizing the drive. And honestly, media is one thing I really don't want to fail. So after a lot of unsuccessful troubleshooting, I bought myself two 256GB CFast cards for about 500 euros. Needing to invest 500 euros in media really hurts. But honestly, since switching to CFast cards, I haven't had a single problem since. And plus, it cuts down on cables and clutter, which is always a positive in my book. I'm also quite happy about this monitor, the Portkeys LH5P. It is 1700 nits, so plenty enough for sunny outdoor shooting, and best of all, it has Bluetooth camera control. And since I blocked my rear screen with a V-mount battery, that was a welcome feature. So now you're back shooting with your Pocket 6K, you offload your footage and open your included copy of DaVinci Resolve Studio, and all seems worth it. Because working with B-RAW is like heaven on earth. Blackmagic's Gen 5 color science delivers fantastic skin tones, subtle highlight roll-offs, and deep filmic shadows. Combined with the flexibility of B-RAW in post, you've got a lot of room to play. Grading footage from this camera is genuinely fun. It really feels like working with a digital negative. And despite the high resolution, compared to cinema DNG, the files really aren't that large, and in some instances are even smaller than ProRes. 12:1 or Q5 compression is plenty enough data for most jobs. And even then, it is still 99% as flexible as the lower compression options. Blackmagic really did some Blackmagic with their codecs. But still, this is a 6-year-old camera, so would I recommend it in 2025? Honestly, no. At least not the OG. Because since its release, Blackmagic has put out 2 successors, the Pocket 6K G2 and the 6K Pro. The G2 adds a tiltable screen, better battery life, and support for a proprietary viewfinder. But really, you should just pay a bit more for the 6K Pro. Because not only does it have internal ND filters, which are a godsend by the way, it also has an even brighter screen. 1500 nits for the Pro compared to 500 nits for the G2. And they all still have that great sensor and color science. Other manufacturers have caught up as well. Panasonic, for instance, has multiple great video cameras such as the S5 IIX and the newly released S1 II, all of which have stunning image quality, great features, and are priced competitively. But nevertheless, I still love this little camera. If not for its amazing image quality, just because of the weird circumstances that have brought us together. It's been to countless shoots, survived tough conditions. It has been on so many trips, and to think that if it hadn't caught my eye all those years ago, it would still lay rotting on the forest floor.